Hey, welcome in. This is the closing episode of the 2026 Essential Checklist for First-Time Home Buyers, part number 4. And the topic, the closing. Yes, the final phase of you officially becoming a homeowner, it's called a closing. And it is as exciting as it is stressful. So today, I'm going to go over the checklist so you could enjoy the ride and remove all the trauma. Let's do this.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
What is the hippity haps, my How to Buy a Homies? I'm David Sidoni. This is the conclusion of the checklist series. For 7 years now, millions of aspiring first-time homebuyers have found their path from renter to homeowner through the free education offered here. If you're new, start at episode 400 for the #1 trusted step-by-step first-time homebuyer program in the U.S. And explore the episode guide in the show notes as well. That's where you can find the answers to the questions that you want covered, specific topics with specific titles. I've done pretty much everything. For the maximum benefit, I recommend using both of those things, the 10 steps plus the episode guide, so you can find the answers that you're looking for. And after you've done that, please make sure that you're subscribing here, because the recommendation that I do is that you dig deep into the library to find the stuff that you're looking for, as well as listening to the new episodes when they come out. That's where you're going to get details on the current market and what's working right now for first-time homebuyers today. We got one mission here: to crush the confusion in your research and reveal to you all the options that you've got that you didn't even know were out there. And also here in 2026, we continue the tradition of answering listener questions right here on the air so you can all learn from it. Today's question actually came to us back in January of 2025. Now, this listener started out telling me that he'd been listening to the podcast for months religiously, knocking out 2 to 3 episodes a day. He told me that hearing the testimonials of the other people getting a house who were in similar situations to him, well, that gave him the belief that he could make it happen for himself. He thought he'd have to plan for all of 2025, even with all that listening. When they reached out with only $9,000 saved in January of 2025, his unicorn team ended up coaching and guiding him, and he got the keys to a $490,000 home in less than 3 months. Yeah, and with just that $9,000 saved. These were the questions he asked right up top. All right, my salary is $78,000 plus $12,000 in bonuses. Got a credit score of 757. I just paid off a credit card, and I have a car payment of $311 a month. And I've got a school payment. I don't know if that's a loan or a current school payment, but it was $120 a month. He said he was really close to being debt-free, but he wasn't sure if he should wait a year or buy now using the rent replacement strategy. He also added that his wife had a similar salary to him, about $70,000 a year. And what they were concerned about was doing a hard pull on their credit score while they were trying to do their planning. And their last question was they didn't know if they should be looking at new builds or resale, regular traditional buying. Well, right off the bat, I told them that the answer to what they are approved for with that salary and that debt, that's just the beginning of the story. That is the basic minimum that you can do. You know, we get questions like this all the time. People will bring in a listing and say, hey, David, is this a good deal? Or like this buyer, they'll send me some numbers. And even though they think, hey, this is a good snapshot, you can tell me what I should be doing, right? There's no way that anybody can give you your best options on if something is a deal for you or what your best path is to home ownership without fully understanding your entire financial picture and your entire life and life goals. Questions like, hey, what's happening with your debt now and in the future? What's your saving potential? What are your career paths look like? What about investment strategy, short and long-term financial goals? What is your budgeting and investment style and your risk tolerance? What's happening with your taxes? How about your income? Is it stable? Do you think there's going to be any chunks of money coming in at any time? What does your emergency fund look like after this purchase? And most importantly, what is this home going to mean to you? How many years do you want to live in it? Oh my God, I haven't even finished. That's probably 10% of the questions that you're going to need to get answered so someone can give you the full picture. Buying a home, it's not just a bill. It's not just a purchase that you make so that you can make sure you're doing the right thing moving forward. It's an appreciating asset and a rent replacement strategy. When done correctly, you're going to need to have a larger discussion with people to figure out the full picture of what kind of purchase works best for you. So my answer to the question to them is the same answer that I give to anybody that comes in when they give me just the partial bits of information. And I say, hey, let's get you with the unicorn team. Discuss all your options. Figure out the position you're in now and the best positions you can get into the future. And build a plan. And if while you're building the plan, life happens, things happen, you need to adjust your plan, cool. It's just planning. But asking, hey, I got this, can I do this? That's the minimum. That's just trying to squeeze yourself into something as opposed to stepping back and figuring out the best way for you to make this gigantic move in your life. And that includes the hard credit pull that they were asking about. And we did get them with a unicorn team. They ended up going through all of the questions, all of the facts and figures and the things that mattered for them and their life, not just the mathematical option or potential of what they could do right now. And the cool thing was they figured out that they had gobs and gobs of options available to them immediately. Now, as for the hard pull, the myth on hard pulls not crushing your credit score, they're discussed way back in episode 199. And I'm talking about it in an upcoming episode that I just recorded with the one and only unicorn lender. And that's going to be coming out at the end of the month. And spoiler alert, waiting to book a discovery meeting to talk to someone about all your options, whether it's a lender or a realtor or talking to both of them. If you're waiting to do that because you don't want to get a hard pull against your credit score, first of all, just tell them that up front. And then they can explain to you all the options and maybe not even do it. And most of all, if that's the reason why you're waiting, you're losing so much planning that can save you tens of thousands of dollars that particular one thing holding people back is unfortunately one of the things that's keeping people from finding their American dream. But these guys reached out, they got the answer, and they got the keys before they even knew what hit them. And for them, when they were looking at new homes versus resale, here's something they discovered. For them, they figured out that the true cost of the new construction home, it actually was a lot higher than what they were anticipating because the homes came with no landscaping at all, front or backyard. They also found out that it added much higher property taxes because of these new communities. They were in a higher tax base. And there were a bunch of little things that were going to add up big time. Things like the specific fixtures in the home and some of the other upgrades that they were going to want to do, like window coverings and silly little things like that. But they add up. When they compared that to a 2-year-old resale home that their unicorn team had showed them, and that one had its backyard done, it had owned solar, not a lease, and it had an all-electrical house with a cheap utility bill because of that whole thing that the home was already set up with. And on top of that, it had the lower taxes. They realized that that resale home was going to way better fit into their budget, and it would leave them a ton of money left over so they wouldn't feel house poor, so they could not only enjoy a great home, but also continue to enjoy all the fun things in life. Now, if you want more information on new homes versus traditional sales, because your individual process of trying to evaluate, it's going to be different than theirs, check out episode 392. We'll put that in the show notes. Awesome. That was a great question to start things off. And now we're going to get into the closing. We're going to be doing some manifestation outcome visualization. That's a thing, right? Like that's what everybody talks about. We're going to be jumping right into a positive outcome and visualizing that. We're going to be talking about the closing. I know you're nowhere near that, but here's what you're going to need to know. The closing period, first of all, it's different in every single state. So if you're talking to friends and family, make sure you understand that. The usual time period is 30 to 45 days in what we call non-attorney states. And it's closer to 60 days and sometimes even longer in states where real estate attorneys are involved in completing the transaction. Now, in part 3 of this series, I talked a lot about the important contractual timelines that are going to be part of that closing process. Call it something different. Every place, gotta love real estate not being uniform all over the country. It could be called a contingency period, condition period, due diligence period, or an option period. Now, these are super important, and you got to make sure you have a good handle on those and what you should be expecting. And I really recommend that you do that well before you even write your first offer. Now, this is the checklist of other things that you can do as soon as your offer is accepted. Now, this is really important. As soon as. This is a checklist for the first 24 to 48 hours, and that's not an over-conservative estimate when I'm saying that. This is a hard, fast rule. Do this ASAP. Now, will you lose the house if you don't? No, but this will maybe not 100%, this will 99% make sure that you avoid all the 11th hour nightmares that I hear so many horror stories when people talk about them trying to close on their home. Doing this stuff early is what stops it. This comes from 20 years of experience. This is what you instantly do after you have your offer accepted. First, be prepared to be busy immediately. The first few weeks of a home purchase are a tornado of activity, so be ready for it. Don't be surprised. This is no joke, no exaggeration. Save up your sick days, your PTO days, whatever. Don't make any plans in the evening or on the weekend. Make sure you've got extra time. Be ready. It's going to be a part-time job for the next couple weeks. Next, if you're moving any money in this transaction to close the deal, number one, always check with the lender first before you do that. Always check with the lender, and do not wait. Ask them on day one. Say, hey, lender, great. I know you're doing a bunch because I just got this offer accepted. I want to know exactly how I can start moving the money, whether you're cashing out your 401k, if you're cashing out stocks, if you're Bitcoin, if you're moving retirement money, if you're getting cash deposits at some point, if you're getting gift money from anybody. Yeah, because gift money, you actually have to have a very specific letter for that. So anything, get that started on day one. Also, if you're going to do any spending throughout the process, the very, very minute that you're under contract, don't move any money over $100, not until you've discussed it with your lender. And also, no new credit cards, no new loans, no new refinancing. Don't buy a car, don't buy furniture, don't buy a rug. I don't even want you to buy a new colander for your new home. Nothing without checking with your lender first. Next, in the 24 to 48 hours, pay your earnest money deposit. Be ready for it. Get it in quickly. Next, this one's specifically for people using a VA loan. Get your COE ASAP. And if you need a DD-214 or a statement of service, get on that too. If you don't know what that is, cool, you're not in the military. Next, if you're in attorney states, secure your attorney approvals in those first couple of days. Next, here's a big one. In the first couple of days, get your inspection date set and try to set it as early as possible. Next, now, just in case you didn't hear me, plan your personal days off or your vacation days or your sick days or your half days or your full days off of work and be ready for them. If you're in a 30-day contract, 85% of the activity to close on the home happens within the first 7 to 12 days. Now, I'm telling you that for two reasons. Number one, get ready. Number two, don't freak out when it happens because you heard it now. And also, don't freak out when it slows down. Because what happens is all this activity happens with your loan, your appraisal, your inspection, the negotiations on the inspection. All that stuff happens early, all the paperwork and the disclosures and tons of things coming in. And then suddenly for the last 2 or 3 weeks, everything slows down. Instead of getting 10 emails a day, you get 1 email every other day. Be ready for that. Next, in the first 24 to 48 hours, get used to becoming an email checker. You're going to be an email person for the next 30, 40, 60 days. Because why? Everybody in real estate love email. The people who do the title, the escrow, the attorneys, the transaction coordinators, the lenders, the underwriters, the county correspondents, the government loan correspondents, even the inspection comes to you in an email with a giant PDF. Yeah, they all email all day long. So if you don't email buying a home, you do now. Next, in the first 24 to 48 hours, if you haven't put all your documents that you needed to get your loan approval, if you haven't put them in one electronic file, you should do so now. You should have everything in a file, and don't think you're done with them because you're going to get asked again and again and again by multiple different people. You think that everything's done with the loan, but actually the purchase of the home, that whole process of the closing, it's mostly doing the loan. And it gets moved up the chain with the different people in the bank or the lending institution. So different people are going to ask you for the same thing again and again. And if you're getting anything new, if you're getting like new pay stubs, or if it happens to fall in that period when you're closing on the home where you get a bonus bit of money that comes in, or if you've got changes in your taxes or a tax refund, make sure that you add all that into that electronic file. You're going to need it more and more and more. Next, in the first couple of days, you want to ask your lender about your rate lock. Now, this is too much for me to go into right now, but ask about your lock and ask if you have float down options. These are important things that you should have discussed before you put an offer in on the house, but that you need to lock in, yes, pun intended, in the first couple of days. Next, start requesting the HOA information immediately. Anyone who has HOA documents that you need, for some reason, they take forever to get them to you. So start bugging right away. Have your realtor start bugging the other people for all the CC&Rs, the insurance coverage, the HOA certificate sometimes is needed. Ask for all of that. Next, you want to make sure that you can do an insurance claim history check on the home. In some places, it's what they call a clue report. So once you get your offer accepted, ask your realtor, hey, I want to make sure that we get a clue report or something similar and check the insurance claims on the home. Then one of the things that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get homeowners insurance. Homeowners insurance is required by lenders. So you're going to want to start shopping early if you haven't done so already, so you can compare deductibles and coverages. Make sure that you ask about, are you in a fire zone or flood zone or other regional zone designations? All right, that's going to lead us to another giant myth about home ownership. Right now, insurance is all over the news. There are stories saying that homeowners insurance is becoming the death of housing affordability. And housing, well, the prices, they're all going to crash because of these greedy insurance companies. Here's the bad news about that. Yeah, those rumors are true. Not all of it. It's just the part that insurance companies suck and they're gouging us. Yes, that's true. But the good news is, this is a louder story now. Edit. But the good news is, this is a louder story now, and you might be hearing about it, but it's not a new story. Here in California, since 2022, with wildfires and terrible climate events that have happened to us, insurance companies, they have cited their cost of doing business was too expensive for them. Yeah, a lot of the big companies said, we can't keep doing it here. Allstate, they left California altogether. And other companies like State Farm and Farmers and Nationwide, and pretty much any insurance company with a jingle that you can sing, well, they either ended up leaving California for a while or they drastically limited and or reduced their policies that were available to homeowners. And the crisis hit its peak in 2023. But what's crazy is insurance, that crisis hit its peak the same time that mortgage interest rates hit 8%. The market slowed down, but it didn't crash. So we've had time to adjust, and the insurance company have had time to adjust. And yes, it sucks, but it's not impossible. And plenty of first-time homebuyers have been able to buy fully insured homes with policies that made sense. So don't be fooled by the overhyped pessimism about homeowners insurance. The people who can't find an affordable solution, they're just not getting the right guidance. All right, so that's the whirlwind of the first 48 hours. And you and your realtor might have a bunch of other stuff that you need to do in your local region that might not be on that list. And never know, there could be new things that pop up since the time that I record this. As you go through that, your real estate support team, they're going to help you with everything. They're going to help you get over the home inspection, which we went over in part 3. And when you're getting into the closing process and you're trying to figure out what your closing costs are going to be, well, that all gets explained in detail in episode 438. But here are some things in the closing process on the checklist that sometimes get overlooked or sometimes come as a surprise to the buyer because they didn't know this was going to be happening. And some of these things are happening kind of in the last few days before you get your keys. Now, the first one, this is kind of important. The date that you've agreed on, the date to transfer the property rights. It's your closing date on the contract. Know this and know this now. It is not set in stone. If you talk to people in real estate, the closing date that is a written agreement on a contract between a buyer and a seller, everyone in real estate, they're not looking at that as, a locked dead date. That's a target date for everybody. So just know that going in. The closing date, it moves, it changes, it gets postponed or it gets moved up early, and that happens often. My best tip to you is live by this motto. The actual closing date is fluid. Next, as you get close to closing on the home, a few days before you actually officially own the home, verify that you have transferred the utilities into your name. I know you don't own the place yet, but do it early before the closing date. That way you avoid service gaps, service interruptions, and extra fees to turn it back on if it gets turned off. You really want to do this. I have celebrated with buyers with champagne by candlelight because they didn't end up transferring the utilities. And when we got the keys, we walked in and, well, you could figure it out. Next, in the week before, make sure you've got the USPS address change online all set. Do that before you move in. Start getting things sent there. Next, insure edit. That's really important because you're going to have a lot of official home ownership stuff that's going to be coming into the mail in the first week that you live there. Next, ensure that all repair receipts are collected from the seller prior to the closing. You want to get all that information before you go check them out, before you do a final walkthrough, which is the next one. Make sure that you're doing a final walkthrough, usually, 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 days before the closing. Next, when you're getting ready to go sign and buy the house, get ready to sign more paperwork than you've ever imagined. Your wrist is going to get super crampy. Be ready. All right, here's another important one. Wiring the funds. This is going to be the biggest amount of money you've ever sent from one entity to another your entire life. And wiring funds, this is a huge area of scam. Now, a good real estate team, everybody, title, escrow, attorneys, realtors, lenders, they're all going to give you warnings about this. But make sure that you talk to your individual team about how to avoid wire fraud. Ask everybody for the best tips. You want to make sure you're talking to the right people, you're getting the right email, and you're not getting scammed. All right, and then after you buy the home, here's another checklist for you. Number 1, change the locks immediately. This is something that I have heard people say, I was thinking about it and blah, blah, blah. Just because someone tells you they give you the keys doesn't mean they gave you all the keys. Number 2, if your house has a fireplace, do a chimney sweep. You have no idea when the last time that anybody used your fireplace. And what I find is most of the time, the first time that someone wants to use their fireplace in their new home, it's usually a fun little moment. Oh my gosh, we have a house and it's finally cold. And then you light the fireplace and soot everywhere, or you find out there's something in there that crawled in and has been there for years and nobody knew about it. These are the things you want to avoid. So if you got a chimney, get a chimney sweep. Next, this one's much more practical. As soon as you move in, get an HVAC tune-up. I cannot recommend this enough. And then keep that person on retainer and have them come out once a year. The last thing you want to do is it to be really cold or really hot and your HVAC system that's been quote unquote running fine for years hasn't been fixed, and suddenly you're left either freezing cold or boiling hot. Another little tip with the air conditioners, all your HVAC units, they've got those filters, that the vents that are usually in the ceiling. Go out the first day you own the home and go buy 12 months of those filters and put a reminder on your phone and change those air filters once a month. Huge way to help keep your costs down. Next one on the checklist after you buy the house. This is one of my buyers told me. It's kind of weird, but I was like, oh, okay. They just decided, they were a little bit of a germaphobe person. They just immediately replaced all the toilets. Up to you if you want to do that. But they just would rather feel more comfortable with brand new toilets in the facilities. Okay, next tip. As soon as you buy the house, before you do any sort of improvements of any kind, take photos, date the photos. Make sure you have photos of every single area of the house, including the front yards and the backyards. This is going to be important for you later on for your tax records and for when you sell the house, so that you have those before and after pictures, as this is what the house was and this is what we've done to it. Next, something that is happening right now because it's getting pretty cheap, go ahead and look into getting security cameras, something that could be really important at the very least to help you with porch pirates stealing your packages. Next, move in, get settled, relax, and then make sure you understand how the taxes work on your new home. You've got a principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Most of you are going to pay a monthly bill that way, a PITI bill, right? So what you want to do is you want to figure out how your lender uses the T in PITI. Are they creating an escrow account? Most of them do. And you want to find out what that account is, when the money goes into it, and when they pay the property taxes. You can do this pretty easily by going and reviewing the property tax history online. You can also talk to your lender about it and just ensure that you know what's going on with your taxes and they're being paid correctly. Next, if you're in an area where there's something called a homestead exemption, make sure that you apply for that to help reduce your taxes. It's not a lot, but it's taxes, anything helps, right? Next, make sure that you save everything that came from the inspection report, as well as any repairs that happen. Save and start yourself a little binder. It can be in real life paper or it can be electronic, but keep a binder on the house. The more information you have about every single little thing that was done on the house, the better that is for you in the long run. Next, double check with everybody to make sure that your insurance is all in place. And next, if your state does something called a supplemental tax payment, make sure that you ask about that. Talk to your lender, because that can be a big surprise when you get a big bill in the first year of home ownership. Now, when it comes to your loan, I know that a lot of first-time home buyers, after they get their keys, they're already starting to plot and plan and figure out ways to reduce their loan. Here's my biggest tip. Do not blindly throw extra money at your loan when you're a homeowner. This is a big mathematical formula. And just like it was when you were buying a house and you take everything into account, when you're figuring out if and when or how you're thinking about maybe paying down your loan more than the minimum monthly payments, that also is a gigantic mathematical formula that needs to take into account everything about you. If you really want to pay your mortgage down, this is my big question. Ask yourself why. I know it seems really silly, but if you ask yourself why, you get into the bigger questions. If you're planning to move in under 15 years, there are actually a lot of other financial plans that can net you much more in your total earnings or total savings than trying to reduce the principal on the home that you own, depending on what your next step is going to be. So your solution is simple. Just set annual check-ins to talk strategy with a lender that helped you buy this home. Someone who's been through your goals, knows your goals, and now can help you on phase 2. Another thing to keep in mind is that your home's value, it's going to be changing. So you're going to want to be checking in on that when you're a homeowner. Of course, you can always ask your realtor to keep you up to date. And any homie that uses a unicorn realtor, they actually get a cool automated system that we provide to everybody that shows you the current market value of your home and other homes in your neighborhood. Another tip is, since you've got a home warranty for your first year, be aware it's not going to be that cheap after year 1. Automate savings for repairs after that first year. You got the warranty for the first year, but after that, sometimes it's a lot cheaper for you to figure out to pay for them yourself than to pay for a really expensive home warranty policy. Start that savings ASAP and put it somewhere safe. And like I always say, automate, 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 automate. You don't want to have to think about it, but you just need to know it's going to be there. And one of the final things that you do here post getting your keys, now that you're a homeowner, something on this checklist and something that's important is thinking about what's next. You guys know I love to educate and I love to teach. So let me just plant this idea into your brain right now. This is how you can use your first home purchase to be financially secure and set for your entire life. Here's a thought. Don't sell your first home. Don't sell your golden goose. Plan on keeping that first home for 20, 30 years, even if you want to move out of it in 5 to 7 years. See, so many people, they buy their first home and then they're like, great, they get in. And then they stop thinking about the potential that that home has for them. Most people sell their first home to move up to get their next one. That's the very typical pattern. They use the first home as their way up the ladder. Now, I say, don't kill that golden goose. Remember, the biggest way to make money in real estate is time in the market. It's not timing the market for the highs and the lows. It's how long you're in it. Well, you can never get earlier than the day that you buy your first home. And when you sell it, you start all over again. Here's something I want to plant in your head. Think about keeping that home and renting it out, which means we're going to have to plan differently to figure out how to buy the second home than cashing out. But we can do that because think about it. If you rent the house now, today, when you're a homeowner living in that house, maybe it doesn't even, if you rented it, it wouldn't even cover your mortgage, but as time goes on, rents are going to go up and it's going to get closer and closer. Eventually, you're going to be in a position where your rent for your house might actually be, a couple $100 more than your mortgage. Not to mention, there could be chances for refinancing down the line, and you might be able to lower that mortgage, in which case you'd make more money if you rented the house out. Most of the time, if you hold a home for 7 to 10 years, you're going to be able to rent it for $1,000 or $2,000 more, depending on obviously the price of the home. And you can use that cash flow, that money, and for the rest of the years that you own the home. A lot of people they just compare that. That's the smallest amount. The equity that you own in that home, the profit, the difference between your loan amount, how much that home is worth, that's where in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you're in a position for hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars. And I'm telling you this now because what we want to do is we want you to start thinking about saving for house number 2 without having to sell house number 1. And the good news is you already know what to do. You just did it. But this time, instead of needing 5 months to save up for 8% of that purchase price of a home that you want to buy, you don't have to do it in 5 months. You can do it in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. So you see where I'm going with this? You don't have to commit to this idea today, But you need to know how much I love this plan for everybody. So if I could change anything, if I could continue things of this revolution, number one, I'd get more first-time homebuyers to figure out they have more options. And number two, I'd have more first-time homebuyers at least look at this and see if it's something that might make sense for them. Just like buying your first home, you have more options than you can even imagine if you work these plans with the right people. So I say 6 months into buying your home, call your lender and go, all right, I'd like to do plan A and plan B. Plan A. So you live in your first home and you create a savings plan to buy your second home. And you're going to use that savings plus the equity from the sale of your first home. And then you and your lender create a plan B. That's where you save aggressively for your next down payment while you live in home number one. In 5 to 10 years, you're going to rent out home number one for positive cash flow and use the savings that you've been doing for the last 5 or 10 years, plus the tax write-offs and depreciation that you get by renting your home number one. And you're going to buy home number two using a low down payment option, just like you did to buy home number one 5 or 10 years ago. Gang, the deal is you've already done it. You know how. And here's some of the tips for plan B. Real estate grows the longer you have it. Time in the market, not timing the market. So here's the thought. Instead of trying to figure out, I'm going to live here and then I'm going to sell it and make a ton of money, do this. Leverage the crap out of your first home. Pay the minimums on it. Instead of making extra loan payments on house number one, set up a down payment savings account for house number two if you're planning to do plan B and not sell house number one. Then, holy crap, you can own 2 homes in 5 to 7 years. We have a bunch of homies that bought their first house when they were 24 or 25 years old. I tell them about this. Can you imagine being 30 years old and owning 2 homes? By the time you're 40 or 50, you're going to be sitting pretty for life. Now, here's the math behind keeping your first home. Here's just one example. You buy a $420,000 home. In 5 years, that home with, let's call it a $2,700 payment a month. That $420,000 home costs $2,700 a month, but in 5 years, it would be worth $517,000 if we use the traditional appreciation of homes that's been going on for 100 years. So I understand a lot of people are like, 517, we bought it for 420. I'm going to sell it for $100,000 and buy a big old fatty home. Yes, you could do that. Or you could have worked plan B, save money for those 5 years to get a low down payment on a $700,000 home, keeping that first home, which is sitting there with $100,000 profit. And by then the rents will be above the mortgage payment. Now you can continue to watch that home appreciate and get you hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equity while you're in your new home that you've been planning for 5 years, not 5 months. Buying a home, I get it. It feels like you're at the top of the adulting ladder. But I'm telling you guys, when done with the right team, it's just another step right in the middle. Keep your long game in mind. You're young, and this is something you can do. And time, it's something you can't get back, and the biggest way to grow your wealth. Now, I spoke about plan A and plan B thing for what? A couple of minutes right now? But I'm telling you, I didn't even scratch the surface on it. So make sure that you take a little time after you move in, bookmark this episode and go, hey, what about that plan A, plan B thing? And talk to your lender about it, because this is how you live a life in total control. Take what you've learned here, the right way to use a low down payment and leverage your home purchase. And do it when you're young and do it once and then keep that one and then do it again. Now, when you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s, you can pay them down. You can take the monthly cash flow and use it to do whatever you want, or eventually you could cash out that first home for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I can't tell you how much this is a giant way to have control over your life. Your first home purchase, it's exciting. It's going to have a lot of checklists and a lot of things that you need to do. But I'm telling you, after you own your home, that's where you really want to get into your checklists, because that has the potential to change your future life. Now, I hope that all these checklists that I laid out for you helped you. And I guarantee for most of you listening, if you listen to these checklists and you're trying to figure out the whole thing about buying a house, if you went all the way through this, you probably have a lot more options to start your big change sooner than you think. You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyaHome.com to get started.